What's up, everybody? Welcome into Group Chat Football. I'm Peter Ariz alongside D Money, and this is our daily national college football show where we talk the biggest news in the sport from transfer portal, recruiting, coaching movement, and much more. And we've been going through program by program here, looking at the top 5 newcomers that we are excited about for each team across the country. And today we are talking about the West Virginia Mountaineers. D, you're reporting live from the Allegheny Mountains today. How's that?
Almost heaven. No, man, loving it. Had to spruce up the background here. Some of nature's beauty here. Some of the best nature in America. I'm down to head up to West Virginia sometime soon. Dying to go to the Rapids with my kids. It is definitely on the bucket list, and some good football being played up in the state. And historically, obviously, we know going back to the Big East days, been watching this program close, and excited to see this new chapter with Rich Rodriguez and some of the players. They're going to help him implement his vision and recreate the success he had at Jacksonville State and, of course, at West Virginia.
Yep, and of course, transfer portal, recruiting, that all goes into it. We'll start, though, with the portal. And one of the bigger pickups of the cycle, this is a guy who entered the portal kind of late in the process on December 28th there, and that's Jimmori Robinson from UTSA. 10.5 sacks last season. This is a guy who's 6'5", 250, so he brings a next level type of frame to the table. And at the end of the day, this is a guy who's entered junior college in 2019, so he's been around for a while. You'd love to have the veterans in the trenches.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy who is old, right? A redshirt senior. The size is off the charts. At 6'4", 262. He just looks the part. Stand-up rusher at UTSA, was the conference player of the year. So the production is just outstanding. 10.5 sacks, 17 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles. What I see from this class in general, when you talk about the portal kids and, Jimmori Robinson around top of the list, is you see production. These are not just guys who played. These are guys who excelled, who won awards, were all conference type players, and who put up numbers. So this is someone from Alexandria, Virginia. If you saw the movie Remember the Titans, that's Alexandria, Virginia. And West Virginia was able to beat out Virginia Tech for Jimmori Robinson. Obviously, it's not like it's on the other side of the world, but you take him out of his home state to nearby West Virginia. And I think this is a huge get. Again, built like he's a guy that's so big you can line up in front of the tackle and have him, play two gap. But the way he's used at UTSA, he was standing up and he was being more of a speed rusher. So this combination of size and quickness, and he's fluid, he can move. Late bloomer with the JUCO route as well, kind of bounced around, really hitting his stride now. I think it is an outstanding get, and it's somebody whose maturity, not just physical maturity, but just mental maturity, having been in college for so many years, I think is going to really benefit this team, which is trying to turn it around ASAP.
Yeah, you see the size there in the clips that we've been playing here, and he's got it, and he's got the age on him, and he's got the production, like you said. So, going to be exciting to see him, in a bump up of competition now for him. Someone else here that I want to get to, another transfer, a player that Rich Rod is very familiar with from his time at Jacksonville State. And that is safety Fred Perry. Sorry, I have the West Virginia logo in your face there. But Fred Perry, a guy who has been very productive, 252 tackles in his career, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, 6 forced fumbles, and had over 100 tackles in 24 alone. And again, when you talk about a coach coming over from another school, you keep an eye on who he brings with him, because it's a good bet to say that that's someone that coach has a ton of trust in.
Yeah, this is not exactly buyer beware, right? This is a guy that the coaches are very, very familiar with, having coached him at Jacksonville State 3 years under Rich Rod. Freshman All-America back when he was in the FCS in 2022, but the game translated to the FBS level. It was a first-team all-conference in Conference USA this season. Really much more of a run-stuffing type of safety. Look at his career numbers, 252 total tackles, 25 quarterback pressures 4 sacks, including 3 this past year, 2 INTs, 6 forced fumbles, 5 pass breakups. This year alone, 105 tackles, which is top 30 in the country. Again, somebody who's really going to make his living against the run. He had an 86.3 rush grade, according to Pro Football Focus, which is excellent, almost elite. We mentioned the 3 sacks this year, 13 pressures and 3 sacks, just 41 pass rush snaps. So very efficient in his snaps. The pass defense is where you do have a little bit more of a concern. Struggled this year. 82.9% of the targets this year, according to Pro Football Focus, were converted. 3 touchdowns given up, no interceptions. So those numbers are not good, but he was much better in the passing game when he was under now current West Virginia defensive coordinator Zach Alley. So that was his best season back in 2023 with Zach Alley. Zach Alley is now the defensive coordinator at West Virginia. So you again, there's familiarity. You know what the strengths and weaknesses of this player are, and you have belief that you can get more out of him in the passing game. Is he going to be, kind of like that nickel linebacker, the cheetah position, which is what Alley termed that position at Oklahoma? Is he more just like a box safety, like a monster? We'll see. But the guy can tackle. These are going to be some high-paced, explosive offenses in the Big 12. You talk about, Arizona State coming back with a lot of big pieces, Lou Scotty, but a lot of big pieces there. Texas Tech really geared up for a run with some explosive backs added in the backfield. Colorado's going to reload. They lose obviously a ton, but you do have a veteran quarterback coming in. You still have speed there. Kansas State, best running game in the country, arguably last year. They come back with the full assortment of weapons. So you need guys that can tackle in space. And I think Fred Perry gives you that ability.
Yeah. And just to speak to what you said about, his ability in the box, maybe that's what he plays. You see what his versatility is looking at his snaps, 777 snaps in the box in his career, 682 at free safety, and then 400 snaps as a slot corner, and then 22 as a perimeter corner.
No question about it. So I think the versatility, the experience, the knowledge of the system, all of these things are going to allow him to make a big impact. And again, I just pulled up West Virginia's schedule just to kind of elaborate on the points we were making earlier. You still got Kansas there. Pittsburgh doesn't wow you as an explosive team, but you got Desmond Reed, who's one of the most electrifying players in the ACC. You got to contend with him. UCF, they lost a lot, but they're going to be fast-paced, running up and down the field. This is going to be a tough schedule from a defensive standpoint, and the best way to stop big plays, tackle in space. I think Perry brings you that.
Well, we're going to stay on the defensive side of the ball here. It's funny because with Rich Rod, everyone thinks about the offense, but looking at the class as a whole, I was very impressed with some of these pickups. And the next one that we're going to talk about here is Jordan Scruggs from South Alabama, cornerback, another guy with a ton of experience. And PFF, we referenced PFF when we were talking a moment ago here about Fred Perry. He had an 81 grade on PFF, which is really, really good on 662 snaps. So 70 tackles, interception, 5 pass breakups. And he did play pretty much in the slot that was his main role.
Yeah, and talk about tackling. Another really, really good open field tackler. I would say that's his best attribute, but the production was there. In terms of the passing game, you mentioned the 81 overall grade. Had a coverage grade of 80.9 on the year, which is also very good. Another battle against Virginia Tech, ended up beating them out for him. Also Colorado. There's a guy originally from Kansas City, Missouri. He went to Hutchinson Community College before getting to South Alabama. So another guy who kind of took the JUCO route. We'll see with some of these guys, the eligibility. If a guy like Diego Pavia, that injunction ends up translating to other players, you could see some of these guys, specifically Scruggs and Jimmori Robinson, as JUCO transfers, not JUCO transfers to West Virginia, but guys that had JUCO eligibility used up. Maybe they get extensions on their eligibility. These are guys that are probably ready to go pro. They're so old, but just something to consider. With Scruggs, quicker than fast. I saw him take an interception, 96 yards against App State, and get tackled right there at the end, like at the 4-yard line. So he got hawked down. So it's not going to be a 4-4, 4-3 type profile, but someone who's going to be quick, someone who's going to tackle an open field, someone with a tremendous amount of experience, and someone who's been productive. Again, Sun Belt, what's the trend we're seeing here? All conference, all conference, all conference. I think that, to me, if you're West Virginia, you're better off getting guys that maybe there's something about them that kept them from being at the Power 4 level earlier, but that they produced at a high level at the lower levels, because those guys are good football players. And you go to the Big 12, you're not playing SEC offensive lines, Big 10 offensive lines that can just lean on you. You know, these NFL wide receivers all over the place that can just kind of exploit you, like at the SEC level or the Big 10 level. So at a level of competition that is, you know, the lowest from an NFL prospect standpoint of the Power 4, getting these guys to move up a level who've been productive, those guys are going to have more success because they're not going to get out physicaled to the degree that maybe you would have seen if they're jumping up to the SEC level. So I think this is a smart move. Instead of getting big guys, athletic guys that kind of didn't work out at the Power 4, you know, the higher, the let's say Power 2, right? The SEC Big 10 level. You're getting guys from a lower level that they're good football players. I think they're going to fit in the Big 12 smooth without much of an issue.
So let's get into some of the couple of these high school prospects, D, starting with a guy who you and I, well, I shouldn't say me. You've seen him up close. He's down here in South Florida at a program that you and I are very familiar with, and that's Miami Northwestern. And this is freshman defensive lineman Wilnerson Telemaque. And right away with him, 6'6", 257, he's listed at. He's already on campus working out. The frame is what sticks out. You know, I don't think he's anywhere near a finished product, as I'll pull up his film here in just a second. But you're looking at a guy, if everything goes right in the weight room and frame-wise, who he's not skinny, as you know, you'll see here on his tape. He's big, right? He's not just tall and lanky. This could be a guy who maybe isn't a day one impact player, but 2-3 years from now, you're looking at a potential monster, I think.
Huge, right? The size is there. You mentioned 6'6", 257. I've stood next to this guy. He's going to be probably 280, I think, at some point his freshman year, if he's not that already. Just a huge frame, someone who he had been trying to play defensive end previously, then shifted to defensive tackle his senior year. I think he's now comfortable that that's going to be his home, and you'll see the weight continue to come on.
Look at this picture from his highlight, though. I mean, this right here, you already see the size on him here.
Yeah, I think this is eventually going to be a 300-plus pound player easily, and I think sooner than later. He started off at Monsignor Pace in Miami, which is the same high school as Shamar Stewart, who went to Texas A&M. You'll now see him in the first round of the NFL draft. There were a lot of comparisons when Telemaque was a young player that he'd be kind of the next Shamar Stewart, similar size on those two athletes. So he eventually transfers to Northwestern, which is a storied program in Dade County in the state of Florida, multiple state champions, ton of NFL players, including Teddy Bridgewater, who became the head coach of Northwestern, won a state championship. Bridgewater actually won a state championship as a coach, coaching guys like Telemaque, and then went up to Detroit and was their backup quarterback in the playoffs for the Lions. So quite a year for him. But point is, Telemaque won a state championship this year, got a lot of experience inside. Again, if you watch his earlier film, you'll see him playing more outside. I think this is great that he gets his home. He's in his future home and he's getting familiarity. So it's not something he's learning all the way at West Virginia. This was a tremendous recruiting job by a few people, but I think more than anyone, Bilal Marshall, who was a Miami native, wide receivers coach, helped flip Telemaque from Wisconsin. Telemaque visited multiple times in the winter, which, you go from Miami to Morgantown in the winter. That's pretty impressive. DeAndre Desenor, another South Florida guy, would come up with him. So major recruiting coup. I think if you just look at the player, the size is there, the speed is there. There's some stiffness, but I think at defensive tackle, he's going to be more than athletic enough. And the size, I'm saying he's going to be well over 300. I don't know where it ends. I mean, he could be huge depending on where his body goes because he has the frame.
So he's, like I said, he's there on campus. He posted this picture on February 20th, so 5 days ago. He's in there, but I mean, he's got a baby face, man. So you see, this is a guy who's nowhere near done growing and adding weight to his frame.
Yep, I think it's a 300 plus easy.
So again, I don't know if he's making plays game 1 next year, game 2, but watch for him as the season progresses. And excited to hear some reports out of Morgantown and kind of hear about his progress over the spring and summer now. So look, we've talked. It's been all defense up to this point. And like I said earlier, when you think about Rich Rod, you think about his style of offense, the quarterback that's going to be running the show, and this guy right here could potentially be the quarterback of the future. Someone who was committed before Rich Rod came in. Scotty Fox, who Rivals has him as the number 8 dual threat quarterback of the country. And when you think Rich Rod, of course, you think about quarterbacks who can run the football. And Fox is someone who, look, it may not be the prettiest throwing motion at this point, but it's very, very efficient, and someone who definitely has some juice in those legs to be able to move the chains. And I feel like down the line, operate this offense.
Yeah, I wish we would have seen him run more in his highlights, right? Because when he did run, he looked really good. First thing that jumps out is the size. This is a big, big physical player. He has, Pat White obviously is a gold standard when you talk about running quarterbacks with Rich Rod. This is a much bigger type, more like a Tebow kind of build, or like, that Colin Klein, right? Just that kind of more physical inside running type build. He can throw. You see him doing it. I wouldn't say he's a pro style passer. I think this is really,
this is what I saw this, and I'm like, man, you're right. I wish I would have seen. Wish it would have been more a feature of the offense, but that could be exciting with Rich Rod.
He could do it. I mean, you see the lateral quickness. You see the top end speed is there to finish the run. Cutting in the open field, no problem. And again, the size. I think that's going to help him. So the fact that he could throw as a bonus, this is not going to be, only a running offense. But I think it's funny that this guy, the Rodriguez inherited him, because it does really fit his offense.
Well, I was going to say when he decided to stick with West Virginia, he said he was loyal to West Virginia. That was really, the main reason for it. But I'm thinking the same thing you are. It's a perfect fit for his style of, his athletic style, and I think really could be something that helps him moving forward.
Here we go again. Again, you could just see, look at the acceleration. I mean, this guy should be running all the time, especially with his body type. He can handle it, and I think it's going to be a really nice fit. We'll see. That quarterback competition is going to be fierce. Rich Rodriguez was even talking about the quarterbacks going live a little bit in spring to see how they can really run, which is interesting. But this guy, if he's going live in spring, he's got the body type to absorb contact. That's for sure.
Well, they have a bunch of them, and you understand that those guys are going to play a certain style, and they're most likely going to take hits. So I think that goes hand in hand with what you're saying about his size and how that could be beneficial to him. But we're excited about West Virginia moving forward here with Rich Rod, and kind of getting back to a lot of the stuff that made them so successful. And we'll be tracking it here on Group Chat Football. This is Group Chat Sports. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. West Virginia fans will have you covered all spring long and heading into the season.